so this is lesson 2 of my lesson series. So the previous day we already introduced goods and services. We pulled on prior knowledge of goods and services that they had learned about in 2nd grade. And so this is 3rd grade. So we're building on that previous understanding. We started talking about government goods and services. They thought about if they had their own country, what goods and services they would develop for their country. And we talked about what's the value of goods and services provided by the government. Why do they provide it and how they financially provide it. So today we're going to be building on those ideas of goods and services and kind of distinguishing these terms. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, boys and girls, I want you to go ahead and look up here at our whiteboard. On it, I have written a question. It says, since yesterday, what government goods or services have you seen? I'm going to go ahead and give you a minute in your journal and start writing about what goods and services you have seen in the last 24 hours. Okay, once you have a list and you have listed most of the things that you have seen, go ahead and give me a thumbs up once you're ready to talk about it. Okay, looks like everybody has at least listed a few things that they have seen. Go ahead and turn to your partner and share with them what were the goods and services provided by the government that you've seen in the last 24 hours.
Hi, partner. I've seen roads, street lights, the trains and the buses from Chicago Transit Authority, and I've seen the mailman, who is a government service, and garbage disposal.
Okay, all eyes and ears right up here. Go ahead and share with the rest of the class what were some of the things that you and your partner talked about. Caleb, you want to share with us?
Yeah, my partner and I talked about how roads and street lights and street signs are all a part of the government goods and services, as well as the trains and the buses are a part of government services and goods. And we also noticed that the mail service and garbage disposal services are a part of government.
Absolutely. And yesterday we started talking about the value of these services, how they help. Can you pick one of the things that you shared about and tell me how does that service or good help our community?
Garbage disposal.
How does that help our community?
Takes our garbage away.
Absolutely. What would happen if we didn't have this service?
We would just have garbage everywhere.
Yeah, so the government uses this service in order to keep its streets cleaned, in order to help us to be able to live healthy, right? So that's why we need these goods and services. What we're gonna do is I want you to go ahead and put your materials back in your desk, clear off your desk. You don't need anything sitting on it right now. Go ahead and stand up, push in your chair, and we are going to go and walk outside. We're going to go walk on the street of the school, and we are going to see what goods and services we see. So go ahead and line up at the door. Remember, as we're going, you're looking for goods and services. Follow behind me. we go, you're making observations. What do you see? Okay, let's go ahead and pause right here. Caleb, what are some of the goods and services that you've seen thus far?
Garbage
Mm-hmm.
and electricity.
Let's keep walking. Careful with the pop.
What about this speed bump?
Speed bump? That could absolutely be a great government good that they would use. Why would the government provide that?
So that people don't speed.
Let's get to the end of the street, and then I want you to take a moment and look around the street and see if you notice anything. Do you notice any other goods or services?
Signs, the street signs, street lamps, the fire, I don't know what that is, it's a fire pole. That's about it, right? Oh, the bike racks.
Ooh, that's a great example. I did not even notice that one. Now the school that we have right here, that one is a private school. So would that be a government service?
No,
Why would that not be a government service?
because it's private and not public.
Yeah, but if it was a public school, what would it be then?
It would be a government service.
So it would be a government service. It would be providing a good too, wouldn't it? The good of education.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start walking back towards our classroom. I know what that is. I spy a truck at the end of this alley who might be a government service. Do you spy that truck? It's at the end of the next alley.
Oh, next alley. Oh, yeah, that's a mail truck, a UPS truck. Wow,
That one is pretty far away,
that's
wasn't it?
very far away.
Okay, let's head back to the classroom. Boys and girls, when you get back to the classroom, go ahead and go back to your seats. take a moment and turn to your partner and tell them at least 3 government goods and services you saw outside.
Well, I saw some bike racks, and we saw a school, but it wasn't public, but it's not government. But I saw some bike racks, a fire, I don't know what it was, but something belonging to the fire department, and trash.
Go ahead and share with me, what were some of the goods and services that you saw outside?
I saw a fire department thing.
The pole that was outside?
Yeah.
That tells the public that they should not park right there in front of it, so that way the fire department can come and help people if they need to. That's a great observation. What else did you see?
And I saw some bike racks.
Mm-hmm.
Those are there because the government puts it there so that people can park their bikes there without it getting stolen.
Mm-hmm. Awesome observations. Now let's go ahead and think about what were the differences. You saw both some goods and some services outside. What were the difference between those goods and services? Take a moment to think about it and then discuss it with your partner.
Well, there are some different. There are goods, but also services. Like the bike rack is a good, and the garbage disposal is a good as well, but it's also a service because they come and get it.
Caleb just made a great observation. What did you say about garbage?
The garbage is a good plus a service
Mm-hmm.
because we get rid of our garbage and it's there for our. It's just there for us to put, but it's also a service because they come and take it.
Yeah, absolutely. At your house, go ahead and think about at your house, does the government provide you a garbage can to put outside? I know at my house, where I grew up in Alabama, our government gave us all big trash cans that we could put out front in our yards, and then we could go and take our trash outside, and then when it was trash day, we all wheeled it out to the front of the street and they could come pick us up. They could come pick it up. So there we see both a good and service, just like you said. The good would be the garbage can, right? That's a product that they produce. But the service is when they actually come and take our garbage. And we're going to be looking at a little bit more about the difference between a good and a service. So I'm going to go ahead and give you 2 different prayer models. And we filled these out before as a class, but we are going to go ahead and fill it out together just in case you've forgotten how to do it. So I want you to go ahead and grab one right now, and you can put the other one away for now. We have been talking about government goods and services. So on the very first prayer model, go ahead and pull that out. And we're going to fill it out together as a class. And right there in the middle box where it says term, let's go ahead and write government service. I'm going to be filling out one up here on the whiteboard for us to follow along with. Government service. So the first box we're going to fill out is definition. So from what you've learned about government services thus far, how could we describe government service to someone who has never heard of it before? You can go ahead and discuss this with your partner.
I think it's a service that the government provides.
What are some other terms that you could maybe use for it? Okay, let's discuss this as a class. I know some people are having a little bit of a difficulty thinking of what are some terms we can use for this. What do we already know that a service is?
Help.
Yeah, helping someone. So we know a service is a job that you do for someone else in a way to serve them. So we could say that government service is maybe a job that the government does to serve or to help its people, its country. Okay, if you have a definition written down, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Now let's start thinking about what are some characteristics of those. So think about what are some of the services that we talked about. We talked about garbage, them coming up and picking up the garbage. We talked about the police.
So the video cut out at 16 minutes because my husband's phone got a call and
We didn't know that until we finished the 40-minute lesson. So we're starting back again from where I stopped off at those 16 minutes. But we already filled in all the papers that we were doing, all the answers. So this time might fly by a little bit quicker. We're gonna try and recreate it, but it might not be quite the same as it was the first time. We're so sorry. But we're gonna pick up where we left off. So here we go. Okay, so we just gave examples of government services. We give the definition, a job that the government does to help people in its country. Now think about the government services that we've learned about thus far. What are some characteristics of these government services? Go ahead and talk to your partner and think about what are some characteristics, what are some ways that we could describe it?
Characteristics of government services is that they're helpful and they help everyone. And they're not discriminatory. They're nice.
Okay, back up here. What were some of the characteristics that you and your partner talked about?
We talked about how helpful they are and how they help everyone.
So go ahead and add that. We'll use a bullet list here. So it was helpful and they help everyone. That is a great example, a great characteristic that you wrote there about helping everyone. Let's think about that for a minute. When the government gives a service, so say we were talking about the police department, and you were to be in an emergency, and you were to call 911, you were to call the police department. When you were asking them to come help you, and they would send help right away, right? They wouldn't stop to ask you, so tell me about yourself. How old are you? What do you look like? What's your personality? They're not going to ask those questions. They have to help everyone. Whereas if I was giving you a private service, say that I were to work at a hair salon and I were to cut people's hair. If I had a customer that was really rude, I would be able to not serve them, right? I would be able to say, no, I really don't want to offer you a service. Whereas with government services, they are built in such a way that they're going to help everyone. The fire department isn't going to check to see who's inside before they're going to check to make sure there are people inside before they run into the building, but they're not going to check and see who are these people, tell me about them. No, they're going to go in and help these people. And so the government services, they don't discriminate against people. They are built to be able to help all people. And we talked about this, we've been talking about this some all during this week, but what are some examples of government services that we could add to our chart?
The fire department.
The fire department, that's a great example. Go ahead and add it to your chart.
The police force.
The police force.
Hospitals.
Hospitals, that is a great example. Now we do have some hospitals that are going to be private hospitals, but we do have some county hospitals, and those would be definitely government services. What about another one?
Transit.
Transit, and this one is a little bit different of a government service because it's not necessarily going to people still have to pay to get on the bus, they have to pay to get on the train. So it's not necessarily paid for in the same way with our tax money that something like the police department, the fire department is going to be paid, but still service that the government offers, right? The government in Chicago offers us the service of transit to be able to move around. What are some non-examples? So things that wouldn't count as government services. Maybe you're thinking about private services. What are some non-examples?
Goods.
Yeah, goods would not be government services, right? Sometimes government services can provide us goods, but they're not exactly the same thing. What might be another example?
Private institutions.
That is a very great vocabulary word right there. Institutions. What would be an example of a private institution?
Private school.
Private school would be one.
Private hospitals.
Yeah, private schools, hospitals. I'm gonna put these in parentheses under private institution. What about another one? What's one last one that we could think of?
Businesses.
Businesses. Those would be different than government services, right?
Yeah.
So let's add that to our list. Now I want you to go ahead and grab out your other fair chart. We're going to talk about, we've been talking about government services, but now we're going to think a little bit more on government provided goods. And we saw, this is what we mainly saw when we were on our walk outside, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We saw a lot of different government provided goods. So under your term, that box right there in the middle, I want you to go ahead and write government provided goods. Now I want you to go ahead and turn to your partner and talk about if you were to describe government provided goods to someone who had never experienced it before, how would you describe this? What definition would you give of government provided goods?
I think we could say that the definition is a product that the government gives to their citizens, to the citizens of their country.
Okay,
I would say.
what definitions did you and your partner come up with? Caleb.
Oh, we said the definition of a government provided good is products that the government gives to their citizens of their country.
Products the government gives to the citizens of the country. Why do they give these products?
To help them.
So could we put that in our definition maybe?
Yeah.
So we might say that it is products that the government gives to help its citizens. Go ahead and think about what are some characteristics, thinking about the government goods that we've already seen. What are some characteristics of these goods? Caleb, what's one characteristic of these goods?
There's no cost.
There's no cost, right? These goods have been provided by our tax money, but you're not going to have to pay every time you go to use them. So anytime that you walk under a street light, you're not going to have to pay to use it. You're not going to have to pay to use a stop sign. These things have already been paid by our tax money, and so they're free for everyone to use after your tax money has been paid.
Everyone can use them.
Yeah, everyone can use
And
it.
they're helpful.
So they're helpful and everyone can use it. They're not going to discriminate against who can use a stop sign, who can use a speed bump. These are things that are made to help all people. One other thing that we might notice about this is thinking about how they help everyone. There's one way that there are several ways that private goods and government goods are different, but one of those ways is that goods can be used by many people at the same time. And so if this is different than private goods. So if I were to go to the store and buy a shirt, that would be a private good, right? But could you use my shirt at the same time as I'm using my shirt? No, you wouldn't be able to use it at the same time as I'm using my shirt. But when we have a street light outside, can you be using the street light at the same time as I am?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these goods can be used by everyone at the same time. So go ahead and add that characteristic. Okay, what are some examples that you have seen of these government provided goods?
Street lights.
Street lights, absolutely. We saw a lot of those when we were outside on our walk, didn't we?
Yeah, and street signs.
Street signs, street lights. What other things?
Garbage cans.
Garbage cans. We definitely saw a lot of garbage cans when we were out walking around our school. Can you think of one other thing?
Bike racks.
Bike racks. Sometimes the government will provide bike racks. What are some things that are not examples of government provided goods? So these might be private provided goods.
Food.
Food. Absolutely. Maybe food at the grocery store.
Water.
So we have to get that through our water company.
Electricity.
Electricity, absolutely. Every month your parents will get an electricity bill to their house. It's not covered by their taxes.
Houses.
Houses are another example of a private good. Because you still have to pay rent at your houses. These are all great examples and non-examples of government provided goods. So I want you to start thinking about what are some things that are similar with government provided goods and services, and what are some things that are really different with these government provided goods and services. We're going to use a Venn diagram. And we've used this before. I'm going to draw it right up here on our whiteboard. We've used this diagram before to show us what are some things that are similar and what are some things that are different. What's something that's different about a good?
A good is a tool and product.
So it's like a tool or a product. Generally, a good is going to be something that is an object that you can touch, feel. It's something that you get that you can physically, to use, to hold in your hand even. How is that different than a service?
A service is an action of the government.
So this might be an action.
So they'll do it for you.
Absolutely. So we have like the mail service here. Is that an object I can hold? No, but I do get to experience that service. So I'm seeing this action take place and that's helping me out. But there are some things that are really similar. And Caleb, you brought this up earlier when you talked about garbage. And you talked about how you had the garbage cans outside, but you also had, which is a good, we also had the service of the garbage company, or the garbage men. And so what are some things that are kind of similar about these goods and services?
They're free for us to use.
So it's free use, right? We can all use these freely after we pay for it with our tax money, right? It is paid for by us, but not every time that we use it. What else is similar about them?
It's helpful.
It's helpful. The government provides these things in order to help the citizens of the country, in order to keep them safe, in order to keep them cared for and meet their needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you pictures of some of the goods and services that we identified yesterday when we made our big chart of goods and services. These are pictures of some things that we included on that big chart that we made yesterday. And so I'm going to go ahead and hand you and your partner a picture of a good or a service. And I want you to go ahead and with your partner determine, is this a good or a service that you see in the picture? What's a description of that object or the service? And then what's the value? Why do we have this as part of our government? Go ahead and get started with your partner.
There's a street light and police force. You think a street light is a good. I think a police force is a service.
give each partner a turn to share their picture that they had, whether they determined that it was a good or service, how they described it, and what value they believe that it adds to the community. Caleb's group, go ahead and share with us, what were your pictures?
Our first picture was a street light, and we considered it as a good because it provides use for everyone, and everyone can use it at the same time. And it allows people to see in dark areas, especially at night. Yeah, and that's the value as well.
Absolutely. What about your other one?
Our other one is the police force. It is a service of the government because the government acts, and what they do is they protect the people who are in the country, but it is they also enforce the law to protect us. And the value is that it helps people when they are in need of help.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and add those up to our bulletin board that we're making. We have one spot for us to put down what are some of the government goods that we have, the government services, and then at the bottom we're going to be working on that part tomorrow, and that is where we're going to talk about how does God interact with these government goods and services. Does he use these in order to meet our physical needs, and how might he do that? And then also talking about, as Christians, can we trust the government to meet all of our needs? If not, why? And so we're going to be talking about this a little bit more tomorrow. But right now, I want you to go ahead and grab out a piece of paper, and I want you to either write a description or draw a picture to show what's the difference between a government good and a government service. I'm going to go ahead and give you time to do that right now. You have about 5 minutes to finish up. Okay, looks like everybody has about wrapped up their pictures. So I'm going to give you time right now, and we're going to just share with one another what was the picture or the description that you wrote or draw, and tell us how does that show the difference between government goods and service. Caleb, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I wrote, I did a side-by-side comparison. I did For goods, I did a garbage can,
Mhm.
or dumpster, if you would like to call it that. And yeah, I drew that. And then for the service, I drew a fire for the fire department.
Awesome. Can you tell me what is the difference? How do these pictures show us what is the difference between a government good and a government service?
Well, the service is the people of the fire department because they are government issued and they go and help people. It's an action. And the garbage can doesn't do any actions. It's just there for our use. We use it to put our trash in. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So this is where I would end the lesson. I would use this last piece, this evaluate piece, in order to grasp their understanding of the difference between goods and services. So as a teacher, as they're explaining their picture, or if they decided to write it, as they're explaining it, I would be taking notes about about the depth of understanding that they showed of these comparison and contrast of goods and services, and I would use that as a formative assessment for the day. But that is my lesson.